Greetings and salutations. My name is Tiffany Howard. I'm the owner of Tiffany Howard Films. I'm an award-winning documentary filmmaker. And in this presentation, I wish to introduce you to my two-time award-winning film, Feminine Archetypes, Across Cultures and a Journey Through Matriarchy. The film features 8 brilliant female scholars across cultures. Feminine Archetypes explores past and present images of women and the matriarchal values that bind them. In this presentation, you will see actual clips from the feature-length film. And at the end of this presentation, you will have an opportunity to view the official trailer. To watch this documentary in its entirety, please visit my website at tiffanyhowardfilms.weebly.com. Now, for the two-time award-winning film, Feminine Archetypes Across Cultures and a Journey Through Matriarchy. Thank you for your time, your attention, your presence.
In myself, I see the sage, the one you come to for advisement, for wisdom, for atonement. I see the healer, definitely. There's a history of women healing people, giving them medicine, spiritual counsel. I also see the queen figure, where we can look to female authority and model the strongest of our people. And probably lastly, I would say the protectorate, the organizer, the women we have come to solve our problems, to organize, to bring our people together, the feminine aspect of, say, nationalism or societal organization.
Definitely, I would say definitely not the mother archetype. I've never been, it might come across as very strange, but I've never identified with that archetype. Even since my childhood, I remember that I never thought about being a mother or anything like that. And a few years ago, actually, it was interesting that all of a sudden I was thinking about having grandchildren. But in regard to the archetype of the mother and taking care of others, maybe not wanting to have the child and taking care of one, but as a teacher, when I look at it, it's another kind of like being the mother for a larger community, for a group of people. So that's it. Just recently, actually, it came to me, and it was really interesting when I noticed that difference. So that nurturing part of that archetype is with me, but it's like I want it for larger group of people. Mm-hmm. I don't know why still I'm thinking about it, but other archetypes, definitely the warrior woman, definitely I've seen it in myself. When I look back, I know that I didn't know how to use that archetype. Yeah. Maybe I didn't have enough knowledge about it, and I couldn't relate in a proper way with it myself. But it has always been there, and when I look back also, I see that I identified with that archetype a lot in my life.
In order to answer that question, I think I would need to preface it by saying that depending on the source, there are between 3 and over a dozen feminine archetypes. So the 3 that many people are familiar with would be Maid, Mother, and Crone. But there's also the alchemist, which is like a magician. There's a wild woman, there's sage, there's visionary. There's warriors, and I'm not going to be able to list them all. But I think at most points in my life, I've identified with at least 2 or 3. I've been a maid, I've been a mother. Right now, I would say I identify most with visionary and alchemist, sage. And I hope that at some point in the future I can count myself among the wise.
Lynn, what feminine archetypes do you see in yourself?
I do see 3 archetypes in myself. One is the huntress, the sage, and also the mystic. I feel they are already inside of me, but each of them do have their own development time. When I was little, I felt strongly aligned with the huntress type. I'm always curious, always looking for experiential moments, and excited about finding new things. And later, to navigate through the world and navigate through academia, particularly, I developed sage characters. And I also feel strongly now connect with mystic character because I'm studying transpersonal psychology and do feel the strong connection with people, but not yet quite clear this mystic connection is. So I'm still curious. I do embody those 3 energies.
I love it.
I think I see in myself that I'm very much a nurturer, and so I place great importance on being a mother. I think it's who I am, and I feel the most comfortable in that role, at being a mother. And so I definitely feel that is very much part of who I am. A mother to not only my children, but also I think to the wider community that my community, and also the community that I work in. I notice that I'm very maternal with a lot of the people that I work with as a psychologist, who come from disadvantage, and I definitely feel that I quite often step into that role. I also think I'm a warrior. As I said before, I come from a strong line of Aboriginal women who in their own right were warriors. And I think that that has been passed down to me, particularly I think through my grandmother, who wasn't afforded the same rights that I have today, but I have an absolute passion for social justice. I'm hugely determined to address the historical, political and social disadvantage of my people. And I actively do that through my work as a psychologist, but also in terms of having those hard conversations and pushing some boundaries, and highlighting the need for change and advocating for that. And so I definitely think I have the warrior in me. Whilst I'm quite a very sensitive, caring person, I have a fight in me that is quite gentle, but very determined.
What is matriarchy?
Well, unlike what most people's impression of it is, matriarchy is not the flip side of patriarchy. Matriarchy is governance by women, but generally speaking, I would say it's always the group of women, and not like a pyramid, top-down kind of rulership, but a horizontal group experience of collaboration and consensus and egalitarianism. One of the important things about matriarchal cultures, the ones we know about that are still alive today, is that they're egalitarian. They're not women over men. And so it's never the flip side of patriarchy. And it's taken decades of education to try to get people to understand that very important difference, because otherwise the media, the general public discourse always dismisses matriarchy as, first of all, unappealing, because, you know, women taking revenge or whatever. And then archaeologists, anthropologists, that would be better to say, anthropologists have for decades denied that there is such a thing as matriarchy. They used to tell us in the 70s and 80s that there were no living matriarchies, and therefore we couldn't say in the goddess movement that there ever had been. And so it was like a double bind, and we were locked into it until the 2000s, the early 2000s, when the matriarchal studies movement, an international movement of women all across the globe that started in Germany, when that movement took shape and started to have conferences and so on, the indigenous people from different matriarchal cultures around the world were invited to participate and sponsored to participate. And so then we got the real education about living matriarchal cultures. And
I see the healer,
I see the huntress,
the warrior,
the mystic,
the lover,
the queen figure.
Depending on the source, there are between 3 and over a dozen feminine archetypes.
I place great importance on being a mother. I think it's who I am.
Definitely, I would say definitely not the mother archetype. The wise woman, the sage woman.
The one you come to for advisement, for wisdom, for atonement.
huntress.
I'm always curious, always looking for experiential moments.
A warrior, that has been passed down to me.
And the warrior, and the mother.
As a healer, as a teacher, as a woman.
At most points in my life, I've identified with at least 2 or 3. I've been a maid, I've been a mother. Right now, I would say visionary, an alchemist, sage.
We can look to female authority and model the strongest of our people.
And I hope that at some point in the future I can count myself among the wise.